Moderator is a co-founder of Untitled Inc. and managing partner at Advantum Partners. And we have 5 or 6 speakers. And welcome, an applause for Oliver Krause. Welcome. Oli, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Oh. That's it. Okay, come out. I leave you the stage, Oli. Okay? Welcome.
Good to see you.
Welcome. So, where are the rest?
So,
welcome.
Moritz.
Okay, welcome. Oh.
Moritz, Ahmed, and Anjum. Yeah, cool. So, I'm really pleased to welcome you here for our panel, Unlocking the Blockchain of Things. And we have really knowledgeable personalities on the stage. First of all, let me start here with Ahmed. He is the creator of the YotaPhone, and now he is active in the IoT space, IoT and blockchain with his firm. We will hear about that soon in the intro. Then we have Mohammed from Dubai, who is also an enthusiast in the field and also very active with his company in the logistics field, so at the intersection of blockchain and logistics. Moritz from Bosch, a global tech giant, German-based engineering firm, and we recently had the pleasure to talk in Frankfurt at the Blockchain Summit already. Now here again in the IoT area. And then we have Ahmed from SAP in Australia now. You moved from Singapore to Australia. And Anjum, finally from Ambrosus, who's an exhibitor here at the conference. So I'm very pleased to have you all here. Give them a hand. When I first I was looking at the topic here, Unlocking the Blockchain of Things, what comes to my mind is basically that we had for quite some time digital transformation in the industrial area already, at least for the last, let's say, 10 years. This has been a term which has been closely linked to concepts like Industry 4.0, Industrial Internet of Things, machine-to-machine communications, have been around for some time. And the development we've seen has basically come from the automation at the shop floor in the 1960s through to the industrial automation phase, to the office automation, and then the internet emerged, and we have seen in the consumer space a lot of innovation there, connected people, basically we are all connected there. And what's new under the sun? I think what's new is the smart connected product. So products actually, through the maturity of technology in terms of the internet and mobile communication networks, as well as the sensor technology, which is more and more capable of producing data everywhere and from any device. We now have the opportunity to collect data over the life cycle from design of a product through use to recycling. And this vision has also been around for quite some time, and now we have blockchain technology entering the scene also in the industrial space. And some of the promises we have basically here is a record of transaction, which is time-stamped, so that parties participating in a particular ecosystem can actually trust that they look at the same database of transactions. This is, I think, one key promise. And in this context, we have also a number of challenges, obviously. And the challenges are, for example, in the area of identity management. Challenges are in the area of scalability of the technology, and many more. So I'm pretty sure that we will have in our discussion touch on some of those aspects. And my first question is simply to Mit to give us a bit more background on yourself, what links you to this topic, and what keeps you awake at night when you think about it.
Right. So basically, I'm in blockchain for 6-7 years. At the same time, I also have a hardware company. So for me, IoT and blockchain basically is the best combination of both. And it's quite important because I'm like 2015, I was more like blockchain skeptical than enthusiast. Asking people to don't do the blockchain because there is no purpose. So for me, IoT and blockchain is basically the best showcase how you can apply the blockchain technology in the real world with no bullshit bingo. And my current company is focusing on connectivity for Internet of Things, where we use blockchain for microtransactions. And so far we already have a working trial and a working network. And I'm quite happy that I'm more focused on business development and like making new use cases than on just doing blah blah blah.
Okay. So is there a specific blockchain you are applying in this context? Do you based on Hyperledger, on Ethereum, or what are you using?
Yeah, so like another topic of that IoT is actually the area where all the modern like challenges for blockchain exist. So first we use several blockchain. We use Axonum as a I can say real-time blockchain for high-speed blockchain, private one, and we use Ethereum for payment ones. We also have like inter-blockchain communication. So basically, as for challenges we have so far in the blockchain business is scalability. So how fast we can do things. It's an inter-blockchain. It's all about plasma and all the stuff we know from Ethereum development. So, and IoT has basically very practical needs for all of this.
Yeah. Cool. Ahmed, maybe you can give us some background on yourself and what links you to the space and where you're active. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mohammed Salman. I'm a blockpreneur from Dubai. What's my role in the space is I'm a CRO for Bitnotic, which is a project as a shipping platform, blockchain as a service. So it connects the dots both for the IoT and the blockchain. So we have in general 8.4 billion devices till last year have been connected together. And there is an expectation there will be 20 billion devices going to be connected by 2020, and by 2030 it will be 500 billion devices to be connected together. So the marriage of IoT and blockchain is really required. We can't have Internet of insecure things. We have to have Internet of secure things. So that purpose is getting sorted by a new layer on top of the IoT, which will be the blockchain. So this is something which is like very intriguing for me and for my team, and we are working on to give a real life use case for the BOT or blockchain of things.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And Moritz, you at Robert Bosch, I know, are looking deeply into IoT use cases as well for the blockchain. So tell us a bit more about what you are doing there.
Yeah, true. My name is Moritz. It's first of all a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation. So I'm working for Bosch Digital Solutions, and we are wearing kind of two hats. On the one hand side, we are part of a big research project at Robert Bosch about distributed ledger technologies and Internet of Things. And on the other hand, at Bosch Digital Solutions, we go the step further than simple business consulting, but also implement real projects, real proof of concept projects at the interface of Internet of Things and blockchain. And there, it's very useful to have this big cooperation as a backing, because then we can also gather all the knowledge in the fields Bosch is doing business. So it's mobility, it's industrial services, it's home appliances or energy. And there we really provide the capabilities of applying different kind of technologies. So we are not technology focused, but are really say, okay, which is the best technology that makes sense to this certain use case, and then we can offer services to realize the first proof of concept projects. And the first product that we offer now in the market is called Certificar. Certificar is basically a service for you and me. So it's a service for certifying car data. We use the blockchain technology to notarize the car data. It could be, for example, mileage. And there we generate trust. So if you want to sell your used car, you can use Certificar. And we build up a car data history, for example, of the mileage data, certify it on the blockchain, and then you can get a certificate from us. And with this certificate, it helps you basically to increase the resale value of your used car. So everywhere where you want to generate trust, where you want to increase your car value, you have this digital car pass plus this certificate. And this is one of the first products where I think blockchain really makes sense, where there's also a clear business case behind, and we are now launching this service soon with Bosch Digital Solutions, and I'm doing there the business development.
Thanks a lot, Moritz. And now we come to Ahmed, who is from another global giant, SAP, heavily involved in ERP systems, so large cloud-based, centralized solutions, and also looking at the blockchain technology. Happy to hear more about that.
Thank you everyone, and thanks everyone. Good afternoon to you. So my name is Ahmed, and I'm here to tell you the blockchain stories from the East. Based out of Australia, but I've been spending a lot of time in Singapore and Asia Pacific market. So I'm associated with SAP for the last 15 years, working with SAP on supporting our customers in terms of their digital transformation. And when it comes to digital transformation, as Oliver just put in, SAP actually provides business application solutions. So we are the largest application solution provider in the world, almost 388,000 customers around the globe. Just to put a number, almost 77% of world's transactions touch SAP system somewhere. So that's how huge SAP is. What I'm witnessing in Asia Pac market is huge growth in terms of smart IoT devices. So we are expecting that the IoT devices might touch almost 20 to 25 billion by year 2020 in all over Asia Pac market. So this actually is going to produce a completely new end-to-end economy. And what blockchain is being perceived is a technology which will enable the transactions for this particular end-to-end economy. So that's where we come in as SAP. We provide additional layer on top of the business applications to our customers, to our existing customers, which are government and privately owned businesses, as large enterprises as well as small enterprises. So we actually provide them blockchain services as a BaaS service on top of their existing business application to enable such use cases. So I have got a lot of kinds of use cases to discuss. Maybe later on I will discuss with you what we are doing with some of the governments in that part of the world, Singapore government, Thailand government, and also Australian government. And also how we are working with some of the privately owned enterprises in terms of their adoption of blockchain technology.
Thanks a lot, Ahmed. And finally, to my far left, Angel from Ambrosus, a startup, and you are certainly trying to disrupt the incumbents, or what is your approach? What is your topic here in the logistics and supply chain field for, as I see, the safety of food and pharmaceuticals, which is clearly one of the initial key use cases, provenance tracking of blockchain. Maybe give us
the basic way to explain what Ambrosus does, it's a blockchain that can talk to sensors. And then also it's a solution that brings trust back to the product. Trust from the consumers about the food they eat or the medicine that they have to consume. We chose those two because actually this is what goes into our bodies. So this is the most kind of intimate and the closest thing. And a lot of people are concerned about it, no matter how rich or poor they are, where they come from and so on. It's a fundamental problem for the society. And we discovered that actually you cannot trust a lot of data. You cannot trust the labels. You can never verify, what the different certifying agencies and maybe governments are doing, or the corporations who are very often left to self-regulate on that, despite the existing solutions. If you look deeper, there are a lot of linkages between those who are watching the industry and those who are producing stuff. So with all that in the premise, we created a solution where we have just a basic blockchain at the core, and then different protocols that enable sensors to talk to it and send the transactions. So we have two fundamental units within our solution. Those are assets. An asset is a digital representation of a real-life object on the blockchain. It can be a type of medicine, a container of food. And the second fundamental unit is an event, which records individual transactions from sensors. So in the end, different stakeholders in the supply chain, whether it's distributors, retailers, or the end consumer, can check and verify that the product that they're consuming is true to what the label says, and they can always go back into the blockchain and check the individual sensor transactions. So that's what our approach is.
Yeah. So that's, I think, a very good point here, a good explanation of what the actual promise of blockchain is, or one example. But for me, a key challenge in this space is also how do you actually incentivize the participants and the stakeholders in such a very complex ecosystem so that they actually enter data in the first place, and that they also enter correct data there. Because if you have an automatic collection of data, you can maybe solve this problem, but in this case, you have to convince people, you have to convince the participants here to participate, and this is an effort. Yeah. Do we have a solution there? Or maybe also we can have a broader discussion on these aspects.
I can just give a high-level response to that. A lot of companies reach out to us, so we're surprised that we didn't have that much effort to reach out to them, because they said we need this. Because they're aware, I mean, the basic premise is that if our company doesn't do it now, some other company will do it faster than us and outcompete us. And then, of course, the huge push by the consumers, these incessant scandals in the food sector about, billions and billions of dollars of fake food, mislabeled products and so on, or thousands of people dying each year from consumption of counterfeit or non-performing medicine. These are the big pushes out there. So the companies themselves are willing to do that. And the second pillar that helps us to gain adoption is our close collaboration with the public sector stakeholders. So Ambrosus works with the United Nations. We have been collaborating with EIT Food, which is the branch of the European Union government. So it's also important to engage those stakeholders. And this is why the companies also reach out to us. They say, well, if you have these linkages with the public sector stakeholders, we can see that you'll push it through, and it's better for us to collaborate rather than miss out.
I think you mentioned in our earlier conversation, also that, if I'm not mistaken, that there's a difference between the ability or in terms of adoption of blockchain technology, a difference between the public and the private sector. I actually can't.
Public and private blockchain.
Exactly, public and private blockchain, yeah, and this is somehow maybe also linked to this issue. I mean, what we see today is two use cases, which is one Bitcoin as a store of value, which has proved to be a use case because it's out there, and the second is VC funding through Ethereum smart contracts, which is a big global use case. Many other use cases also in the IoT sphere are still in a prototype phase. So is that more related to technical issues or also to governance issues?
I think it's both. I mean, we currently, with a private conversation, I always say that we are like 1995 and World Wide Web. So a lot of talks. Not everyone understands what's like blockchain about. There are only few like people who actually understand the full scope of the technical side, and even less than when we talk about companies and governments. So we're currently just at the very beginning, and I think the very practical use cases are still to come. And we're all waiting for like next Google and Amazon to arrive on the scene.
I mean, there are, to add on this, certainly these two use cases you've mentioned are probably the biggest ones right now, but I think there are also some very attractive developments in the pipeline, and still there is some lack on the technology side that holds us back from a bigger adoption. But I think also, for example, this a notarization use case for the Bitcoin blockchain, for example, there are several companies out there that offer such a thing. Also we do, but this is our basic service for certifying car data. And there we also use the Bitcoin blockchain, a public blockchain, and it works very well for us. I have to say from our experience, because we don't have this issue with our solution of high transaction volumes and fast transactions.
And you need to do that when I want to sell my car or buy a car.
We don't need to do it let's say exactly in a millisecond basis, but maybe once per day. And we also came up with a solution to aggregate as much as possible into one transaction. So we aggregate a lot of hashes and then put the root hash on the Bitcoin blockchain. So, and I think especially public blockchains are very, very promising in this new IoT space. And another thing is payments with a new layer 2 developments. There, I think also the Bitcoin blockchain, for example, is promising.
Payment area, really?
I think so.
It becomes micropayments.
Well, I mean, it's still very early, that's true. But recently we, for example, at Bosch implemented a node of the Lightning Network and enabled a lawnmower to pay only every 10 seconds without any transaction costs.
I don't want to... Without any transaction costs?
Without any transaction
costs. Okay, I would be interested maybe later offline to learn more about that, because my understanding was more that other technologies like Stellar, but I don't want to deep dive into the tech aspects here, would be more advanced. But
yeah, it's just picking up where he left. Actually, I'm working with a customer in Thailand, which is one of the largest food producer in the world. Their annual revenue is almost 45 billion US dollars annually. And they are making this 45 billion just by selling chickens and fishes to all of you guys. So one of the biggest challenges for them was how to track and prove the provenance for the food, as you just mentioned. And on ground, the challenges which we have faced, and while we were talking to this customer, whereas they have to do the complete provenance tracking for the food items which is being produced somewhere, in a remote location in Thailand, and then comes all the way to the supermarkets of Europe. is huge. I mean, the challenges are huge, especially the adoption of blockchain by all these intermediaries and the kind of enforcement these private organizations can enforce on top of their supply chain network to adopt these new technologies. So this is one of the biggest challenges they face. We are trying to solve it by having permission networks, so permission blockchain rather than going private or public. But we also face, which is still in progress, is a work in progress, that how different players in the supply chain will adopt these technologies, and as you rightly mentioned, how we will make sure that we can incentivize those players to enter that information.
I think Nick wanted to chime in here and.
I just want to add that, like in Moeco, we work on a platform which actually connects very simple sensors to internet, and we like have use cases for logistics, supply chain. Probably I'll talk to the colleagues later. But we combine both. We can use like private blockchain for logging real-time transactions, because it's actually you can keep in-house. For payment layer, we use a public blockchain, and I think it's like a database. I mean, when you do like SAP system, you have one big database for one purpose and another database for another purpose. So basically, you can combine best of the both worlds.
So interoperability will be a key topic in the future, I suppose, and then interoperability is closely linked to standards, and that's a topic I hear at every event or in every conversation or heard in the last 10 years in the IoT space. Interoperability, machines have to, let's say, need a standard so that they can be understood. If we imagine, if you would all speak Chinese or Hindi or whatever, and I don't speak these languages, it's impossible for me to understand you, to communicate. Ahmed.
About this application side, about the mass adoption, it always starts with the problems, and each industry has its own pain points which BOT can solve. So if we see the mass adoption, because it will be more enterprise level applications, yes, there are solutions for the smart cities which BOT will be bringing in, but mainly we have to search like individual niche kind of solutions for BOT in different industries. And supply chain is something which every industry has been involved in. There is no space where supply chain application is not there. So that's the reason I think if we want to see the BOT applications, we have to go and see the pain points within the supply chain areas of each industry. Just like for us, it's a shipping industry. Our machines which are connected are the ships, the logistics providers, plus the loading devices, storage devices. These are the interconnected devices which we are dealing in, and we have to connect them. There are challenges. Obviously, there are multiple players involved in the ecosystem of shipping industry, and they are all in silos mostly. They have, again, the area of the interoperability is a big thing in BOT. It's enough already a challenge for a simple blockchain applications, and when we talk about combining the two ones, obviously the challenges will be double-fold. So that's what we are facing. There are some operational challenges, there are some technical challenges. Yes, the resources are also difficult to find in for this space. But yes, slowly and surely, we are like, the more you move into the technology side, you find out some solutions. And that's what's happening in the space.
So could we say, or could I say that in the industrial space, in the IoT, at the intersection of IoT and blockchain, we will see a more diversified solution space rather than having, let's say, one dominant solution out there, which was maybe the dream when Bitcoin has been established, to have one global currency independent from...
I just take from here just one thing to add. Yes, the future is blockchain of blockchains. So yes, BOT of different industries. Here we are not 5 projects, maybe like multiple projects. So eventually, just like internet evolved, it was basically the internet evolved. So similarly, I think blockchain applications and the BOT applications will be similar, that okay, this industry is different, having a BOT application. There are other BOT applications in different industries. Ultimately, they will complement each other, and yes, that's the future I see.
And Mitch, you wanted to?
Yeah, I'm there. And sometimes I even don't use the word of the blockchain when we work like with the companies in Dubai, the operators. We say we do this is a solution. And then when we go deep, I say, okay, it's based on blockchain, it's for this purpose. So you always need to start from the business case and then go to the tech, not from the tech to the business case.
Yeah, so we have agreement here, and
Yeah, so I mean, another dimension. Sorry, you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to confirm that it's totally dependent on the use case, and there is no, let's say, one specific technology that fits overall. So then I think there will be a certain fragmentation in the market, also in the midterm. I could imagine that that sometimes blockchain is only used at a high level, but the data management, storage, transactions are still held privately and only used for having a hash on a blockchain, for example, for auditing purposes, for example.
Yeah, no, we also have a similar perspective on that. I mean, we see blockchain as when it comes to business applications, they are continuing to provide the accurate business information, which will be utilized by all those blockchain-based use cases. So that's what we believe. That we believe that they will sit on top of it as a layer, and business applications will continue to provide the kind of accurate information which a blockchain use case would need at the end of the day. So keeping that in mind, I always say that we are actually making the limbo more tolerable for these enterprises, so that these blockchain use cases, it doesn't have to be so much dramatic. I mean, while I'm working with customers, they are looking at scenarios or use cases which are more easily digestible by their economy and their enterprise environment. So that's what we are looking at.
Okay, yeah, I understand that from a data business or IT incumbent in the meantime after 40 years, but still I think there are a lot of challenges out there in the field who basically try to, let's say, remove the big giants and players in the field by connecting basically the devices, the smart products, directly to the blockchain and build a solution, a decentralized solution, and also more decentralized data marketplaces of that. But Mitch, you are...
Yeah, it's all about use cases. Like even when we connect sensors, the blockchain is only on the server side. We keep like clients theme without any blockchain. But I mean, it's all about, like, just to mention that we will be speaking currently on an e-commerce conference about advantages of using TCP/IP. It's actually the same as we're talking now. Early days, IoT and blockchain is actually TCP/IP. No one to like say, oh, let's invest in TCP/IP because everyone talks, let's build next Amazon or something. It's all about coming from if you need a decentralization, you make it, but like for factory, you don't need to make it like truly decentralized. You can use blockchain for supply chain where all the like participants use the same database, no matter to whom they belong to. But
in this case, it will bring operational efficiencies, there's a notion among the investors in the space that we would see, let's say, we are entering in a world where actually the protocols dominate basically the value of the whole space, whereas the applications basically don't play the same role as in the current internet or software business. I personally have been a bit skeptical about this hypothesis. Because I see ourselves at a very early stage in the development of the ecosystem, and this is very much about protocol development, just like TCP/IP or similar. but in the future we will see more focus on the actual applications, on the use cases that will deliver real value to the users. Would you agree or would you disagree in that field? Yeah.
Yeah, I would
I'll just add on that the approach towards this technology itself, the blockchain, or if we combine the blockchain and IoT together, it's 80% towards the tech side and 20% towards the business process change or the economic shift. In fact, it's the other way around. So the moment we change the approach towards these technologies, I think it will be far more easier for us to use them in a real application. We have to see 80% side of the business process change and the real application, and then just 20% for the tech side. At the moment, the hype of blockchain has shifted the equation on the other way around, and 80% people are thinking it as a technology. It's more a business process change from centralized to decentralized. So if we build the real life cases, the use cases on that phenomena, I think we will see much more applications on this side.
Sure. I mean, the notion of blockchain enables decentralized marketplaces is certainly true, but I think it's still unfortunately very, very far away from us. And maybe also good for bigger companies because they are kind of struggling with business model adapting to this new paradigm. So I think, why not starting a bit earlier and saying, for example, tokenization is already something that could be of a real value for sometimes when you implement a wallet into a machine, so the machine can pay when it's interacting with a human, for example, and this already increases the liquidity in the market. For example, it gives access from persons that cannot take part in marketplaces, but now through this tokenization, because sharing things makes this in this way way more simple.
Yeah.
And this is promising already.
That's a huge topic. But tokenization is, let's say, a topic where we still have to figure out the linkage to IoT.
It's not so far away. I mean, if you talk about e-wallets, for example, of cars, so they're very, very close, actually.
Yeah, I can say we can be aware of the big companies, but IBM they have a special word. They name it T-shaped people. Because they bring two parts of the business together, like business and tech. And I think the split between business and tech, I mean, I agree that there should be more business, because to make it practical, you have to. And we just need time where all those kind of T-shaped people in the blockchain industry, they appear and explain how business people can benefit out of the tech, and that's actually the only one part missing.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So